Have you ever had an irresistible urge? I mean, the kind of a totally uncontrollable feeling that turns good citizens, law-abiding men and women, to turn into crazed maniacs. This happened to me one time in my life. Happened a long time ago, but I tell you, the memory of it is still very fond for me. This is what happened. I was driving on a California highway. In front of me was one of those two-level car-carrying trucks, 3 or 4 cars on the level first landing, 3 or 4 more on the curved top landing. The truck must have hit a very severe bump, or maybe the tether hadn't been connected correctly. But all of a sudden, that top car at the end slid right down off the truck and came to a quiet stop on the shoulder. Being a good citizen, I stepped on the brakes and slid in behind it, thinking I might find a phone number or something that I might contact the truck driver to tell him, come on back and get your truck. When I got close, I found out this car was a Porsche. Not only a Porsche, but a Cayenne Turbo, my dream car. 500 horsepower, 174 miles an hour, and the price, you don't want to know. I opened the door of the car, and that smell of hand-tooled fine leather enveloped me. I sat down on the seat, and it embraced me, holding every tension point in complete comfort. I opened up the glove compartment, and the first thing I found was a pair of butter-soft leather driving gloves and a really snazzy driving hat, even more snazzy than this one. I put them on, and I looked in the rearview mirror. I liked what I saw. I never did find a phone number, but what I did find was the ignition key. Well, I couldn't pass up the opportunity to see what it felt like to sit on 500 horses. I turned the key on. Now, I have never used drugs, but that exhaust went, it went right up my spine. And I tell you, it was like what I imagined a big hit of the best stuff would have done. I got out of the car, strode back to my car, looked at my wife severely, and said, snarling at her, meet me in an hour at the next truck stop and don't try to follow me. I strode back to the car, tapped the accelerator, and wow, in about 4 seconds, we were at 60 miles an hour. So I stepped a little heavier. Another few seconds, we were at 100 miles an hour, and I was flying. I went off at the next exit where I knew there was a curvaceous road leading up to a mountain. And I went zooming around those curves, accelerating in the straightaways and sliding through the Z-curves, having the very best time of my life. Well, after a while, the adrenaline rush began to quiet down, and I realized it had already been longer than an hour. So I made a vicious U-turn, testing the car to the limit, zoomed down the mountain, got onto the highway, found the truck stop, zoomed into the parking lot, made a squealing stop right next to my wife sitting in her car. Well, I kept the hat, I kept the gloves, I couldn't resist. But I eventually got rid of them because I didn't want to leave any potentially incriminating evidence around. I had to put up with a few hours of quite noisy criticism from my wife, but I tell you, when we went to bed that night, I think she was really thrilled that her quarter-horse husband had a big streak of wild stallion, yeah!